Добрый день.
Good day, everyone. Today, we will talk about man-made disasters, wars, and terrorism, about how and where residents from the affected cities will be evacuated, how to accommodate people and provide them with food, where can we get drinking water from and how to prevent an epidemic in refugee camps.
Берегите себя.
There are 473 nuclear reactors operating at power plants in the world. The United States of America ranks first in terms of the number of nuclear reactors in the country, 109 reactors. France is in second place with 56 reactors. Japan is in third place with 51 reactors. In fourth place is the UK with 35 reactors. Russia ranks fifth in the world in terms of number of nuclear reactors. There are 33 of them in the country. Nuclear reactors pollute the environment less than thermal power plants. Unlike power plants powered by natural gas and coal, nuclear power plants do not emit carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and other pollutants into the environment. Electricity generated by nuclear power plants is 2.5 times cheaper than electricity generated by solar and wind power plants. Theoretically, nuclear power plants are very reliable. The risk of an accident at a nuclear power plant is estimated by experts as 1.7 cases per 1 million. That is 2 to a million. However, accidents at nuclear power plants still happen. One of the most serious accidents in history was the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which occurred in 1986 in the Soviet Union. Experts call the cause of the accident both unsuccessful design of the reactor and the mistakes of the personnel. As a result of overheating and explosion, the reactor was destroyed. During the explosion and subsequent fire on the territory of the power plant, a large amount of radioactive isotopes were released into the atmosphere, both short-lived, for example, isotopes of iodine, and long-lived, for example, isotopes of cesium. As a result of these events, a significant territory of the Soviet Union was polluted. Now, these polluted territories are located in 3 different states: in the Russian Federation, in Ukraine, and in the Republic of Belarus. 57,000 square kilometers of the territory of the Russian Federation, 47,000 square kilometers of the Republic of Belarus, and 42,000 square kilometers of Ukraine were polluted. During the accident, the number of victims was small. 31 people were employees of the nuclear power plant, but later 600,000 people who took part in the elimination of the consequences of the accident and the evacuation of the population received increased doses of radiation, significantly higher than the natural background. An increased dose of radiation, slightly higher than the natural background, was received by 8.4 million residents of the Soviet Union. 404,000 people were forced to leave their homes due to the high level of radiation in them. These people were relocated from the danger zone. Now the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is located on the territory of Ukraine. In the photo, you see the abandoned city of Pripyat. Due to the increased level of radiation, it is still impossible to live on the territory of this city. In 2011, there was an accident at the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan. Due to the earthquake and the subsequent tsunami, the reactor cooling system was damaged. As a result, the reactor exploded. Despite the fact that the release of radioactive substances from the accident at the Fukushima power plant did not exceed 15% of the release of the Chernobyl power plant, this accident caused serious damage to the environmental situation and human health. Radioactive isotopes got into the water and were carried by water for a considerable distance. Immediately after the accident, the level of radioactivity of coastal water was exceeded by 4,385 times. Even a year after the accident at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, the radioactivity of the water on the coast of Japan was 100 times higher than normal. Currently, according to the official reports, the radioactivity of the water off the coast of Japan is normal. During the accident and after it, about 20,000 people, power plant workers and people who took part in the elimination of the consequences of the accident, received increased doses of radiation. 80,000 people were relocated from their homes due to the high radioactivity of the soil. Anthropogenic disasters are not limited to radioactive contamination. Industrial enterprises sometimes leak toxic chemicals. In the photo, you can see a chlorine leak at the plant in the city of Kirovo-Chepetsk. Unfortunately, even in Crimea, there are problems associated with the leakage of toxic substances at industrial enterprises. The map shows the city of Armyansk, which is located on the border of Crimea with Ukraine. In 2018, a major sulfur dioxide leak occurred at this plant. Sulfur dioxide, after a chemical reaction with water vapor in the air, formed an acid fog. In the picture, you see an apple orchard after exposure to a cloud of fog consisting of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid promotes accelerated corrosion of metal. You can see the result in this photo. Acid fog caused mass death of birds and irritation of the respiratory tract in humans. After the accident, about 4,000 people were evacuated from the city, mostly children. Many people tried to protect their respiratory organs with ordinary medical masks during the acid fog. Unfortunately, medical masks are ineffective in this case. It is necessary to use gas masks. It is also recommended to close the windows and not go outside. If there are no industrial enterprises in your city, it does not mean that you are completely safe. Sometimes the leakage of hazardous chemicals occurs during their transportation by rail, by conventional road transport, and by sea. Sometimes accidents that pollute large areas are associated with space. For example, in 1978, the Soviet satellite Cosmos 954 fell on the territory of Canada. Radioactive fuel from the satellite's nuclear reactor was scattered over Canadian forests. An area of 124,000 square kilometers was polluted. From this, we can conclude that if some part of a satellite or rocket falls near your city, do not rush to get close. Contamination of the territory with radioactive substances or toxic components of rocket fuel is possible. Let's talk about terrorism. There are three main types of terrorism. The first type is political, where terrorist groups want to illegally change the law in the country. The second type of terrorism is criminal. In this case, the terrorists simply want to make money by receiving a ransom for hostages or by receiving money for information about the place where the bomb was planted. The third variant of terrorism is the rarest. This is so-called religious terrorism. In fact, most terrorist organizations that talk about religion have political or financial goals, but not religious. If you see a suspicious object, do not try to touch it. It could be a bomb. It is also impossible to use a mobile phone near an object that may turn out to be a bomb. The detonator may be triggered by electromagnetic field of the mobile phone. And of course, you can't panic. You need to report your find to a police officer or an employee of the organization in whose territory this item was found. The largest or maximum number of victims was a terrorist attack in 2001 in New York. As a result of this terrorist act, about 3,000 people were killed. On September 14, 2001, a state of emergency was introduced in the United States, which violated the rights and freedom of people. This mode has not been cancelled so far. On the territory of Russia, the largest terrorist attack is considered to be the taking of hostages in a theater in Moscow in 2002. As a result of the unsuccessful rescue operation, 130 people were killed. Such events also happen in Crimea. For example, in 2018, an attack on a college took place in the city of Kerch. As a result, 21 people were killed and 67 people were injured. There are several recommendations for hostages. The first and most difficult rule is don't panic. The second rule is not to try to escape if you are not sure of success. A failed escape attempt will result in death. Do not offer aggressive resistance. Try to remember as much information as possible. For example, what the terrorists looked like and what they were armed with, features of clothing and behavior, what they talked about. This information will be useful for the police in the future. If possible, it is necessary to be as far away from windows, doors, kidnappers as possible. Otherwise, during the rescue operation, you may find yourself in the line of fire. During the rescue operation, you need to fall to the floor, crawl away, and not attract attention. Any crowd, a large gathering of people, is a significant potential threat. The problem with the crowd is that the crowd easily panics. Panic, in turn, can kill more people than any accident or terrorist attack. An example is the tragic events in the city of Minsk, Republic of Belarus. In 1999, during the holiday, the weather suddenly changed. It began to rain with hail. Among the 2,000 people gathered in the city square, panic began. Everyone started looking for shelter from the hail. Most ran towards the subway. As a result, 52 people died. 44 of them are girls under the age of 20. You understand the reason. High-heeled shoes prevented them from running. If a person falls during a panic in a crowd, he may never get up again. Therefore, if you go to the political rally, a holiday, or a football match, it is advisable not to be in the center of the crowd, but on the edge so that you can quickly escape. Shoes should be comfortable for running. Scarves and ties in such a situation are potentially dangerous for your life. People are fighting all the time. The history of mankind is the history of wars. But during the war, not only soldiers die, but get injured. Civilians do too. During the war, the most frightening thing is the possibility of using weapons of mass destruction, nuclear, chemical, or bacteriological. Nuclear weapons have been used only once in the history of mankind, in 1945. America used nuclear weapons against Japan. The approximate number of victims is about 500,000 people. Currently, 9 countries have nuclear weapons. The largest number of nuclear weapons are stored in warehouses of Russia and the United States of America. On the one hand, the presence of nuclear weapons is a potential risk of their use. On the other hand, the potential risk of the use of nuclear weapons deters the aggressive action of other countries. Therefore, we live in times of cold economic wars. During the use of nuclear weapons, people are threatened by several damaging factors. The shock wave, the velocity of the air compressed by the explosion, can reach 350 meters per second and can cause serious injury. Radiation in the visible, ultraviolet and infrared ranges can cause fires and burns. Ionizing radiation, gamma and neutron radiation, is particularly dangerous, and environmental pollution with radioactive isotopes, radioactive fallout begins 10 to 12 hours after the explosion, cause radiation sickness and long-term consequences, for example, cancer. The electromagnetic pulse destroys electronics, but is harmless to humans. Chemical weapons were first used in the First World War in 1915. Germany used chemical weapons against the French and Russians. The creator of chemical weapons is the scientist Fritz Haber. The weapons he created were used both in the First World War and in the Second World War. Either living microorganisms or their toxins can be used as biological weapons. Biological weapons have a number of advantages over conventional weapons. A small amount of the virus is enough to start an epidemic or a pandemic. In the future, it will reproduce itself. In addition, it is very difficult to prove the very fact of the use of biological weapons. Any epidemic can be explained by ordinary natural phenomena. Biological weapons are being developed not only against humans but against farm animals, birds, and basic plants used by humans for food. If there is threat to the population, the alert system starts working. The sound of the siren, heard from different sides, means the signal, attention to all. This means that in the next few minutes, you should turn on the radio, TV, or find a local news channel on the internet in order to get information about what happened and recommendations for further action. If the atmospheric air is infected, it is necessary to use respiratory protection. If there are toxic chemicals in the air, it is necessary to use a gas mask. Gas masks come in two types, filtering and insulating. The filter gas mask receives air from the environment and cleans it through the filter. The insulating gas mask has a supply of oxygen either in a compressed or chemically bound state. If there is a radioactive dust in the air or biological weapons are used, it is enough to use a respirator. Gas masks have a significant drawback. You need to choose the right size. Therefore, in the Russian Federation, in addition to gas masks, so-called protective hoods are produced. These protective hoods have a filter, like a filter gas mask, but do not have dimensions. They can be used for both children and adults. If you don't have a ready-made gas mask or respirator, you can do respiratory protection yourself. Here is another version of a homemade respiratory protection device. There are many holes pierced in the cardboard cup. Inside the glass is cotton wool or cotton fabric. The glass is fixed to the packaging film with adhesive tape. If chemical or nuclear weapons have been used, skin protection products should be used also. If there is no ready-made protective suit, you can also make it yourself. You need polyethylene or dense fabric. If there is a threat of the use of weapons of mass destruction or threat of an accident, the population must be evacuated. Evacuation can be complete, that's evacuation of the entire population, or partial, evacuation of only children. People are evacuated on their own or with the help of transport provided by public services. If the people who are being evacuated have relatives who can help them, provide housing, these people are lucky. If not, people end up in refugee camps for evacuation. If not, people end up in refugee camps after evacuation. There are a lot of problems in the refugee camps. The main problems that need to be solved first of There are a lot of problems in the refugee camp. The main problems that need to be solved first of all are providing people with water, food, and a place to live. Water can be taken from open tanks. Of course, it is easy to take water from lakes and rivers, but such reservoirs are very easily polluted, especially after man-made disasters and the use of weapons of mass destruction. Therefore, water from surface reservoirs is first settled in large containers so that suspended particles fall to the bottom of the container. Then this water is filtered and disinfected. Only then does the water become drinkable. If you need to disinfect a small amount of water, you can use special water disinfection tablets. One tablet per liter of water provides a good antibacterial effect. 2 tablets per liter of water, antiviral effect. Water can be drunk 30 minutes after the dissolution of the tablet containing chlorine. Also, the water can be disinfected with an alcoholic solution of iodine, 6 to 7 milligrams of an alcoholic solution of iodine per liter of water. After 2 minutes, you can drink the water. There are other methods of chemical disinfection of drinking water. If you do not have suitable chemicals, the water can be filtered through sand or cotton. Boiling is a reliable method of disinfection as well. You can use groundwater for drinking. This water that accumulates underground on the first waterproof layer before the layer of clay or stone. To get this water, you need to dig a well. In Crimea, groundwater is most often located at the depth of 3 to 8 meters. You can drink rainwater. Rainwater has a low mineralization, so it is not recommended to use for a long time. In addition, if the air is polluted, the pollutant will also get into the rainwater and make it undrinkable. When the water problem is solved, the power problem needs to be solved as well. Under normal conditions, people are recommended to eat 4 times a day. But in the conditions of a refugee camp, if you manage to organize meals 2 times a day, you have completed your task. The cheapest way to provide food in a refugee camp is a field kitchen. Food is distributed in the dishes that people bring. How people wash their dishes is their problem. Food packages can also be distributed in the refugee camp. Food is protected from contamination in different ways. Canned food is best protected from contamination. The outside of the jar can be washed from chemicals, radioactive dust removed, and disinfected. And the contents of the jar are suitable for food. Products hermetically sealed in plastic are also well protected from contamination. If the products are simply wrapped in polyethylene, not hermetically sealed, or are in paper packaging, stored in a bag, such products are easily contaminated. In case of contamination with chemicals, radioactive dust, or microorganisms, such products cannot be used for food. If the area is polluted, it is advisable to wait. Do not cook or eat until you leave the dangerous area. The next problem in the refugee camp is where will people live? A tent is the simplest and cheapest option. The disadvantage of the tent is that it retains heat very poorly. If it is winter outside, it is necessary to arrange heating in the tent. At the same time, it must be remembered that the tent material easily catches fire. To make a dugout, it takes time and a lot of effort. However, it is much warmer in the dugout. The dugout can easily be sealed in case of use of weapons of mass destruction. The dugout is hardly noticeable on the ground and can be used as a reliable shelter. If there is a threat of the use of weapons, the simplest shelter can be made in a few hours. It is enough to dig a trench, strengthen the walls with boards and make a roof on top. To prevent infectious diseases, including those carried by insects, people need to wash. For most people in the refugee camp, taking a shower once a week will be enough. But medical staff and cooks must wash daily. For the prevention of the infectious diseases, washing of clothes should also be provided. If a toilet is not built in the first hours of your stay in a new place, the entire territory will be polluted. Such contamination of the territory will lead to a large number of flies and an increased risk of infectious diseases. The construction of individual toilet cubicles in the refugee camp is impossible. The reasons are lack of time and construction of materials. Therefore, a large trench covered with boards is usually used for the toilet. If there is no bleach for disinfection, it is necessary to appoint attendants who will periodically cover the fecal masses with a thin layer of earth. Thank you very much for your attention and see you in the next one.